Hey Sean, how you doing? How's it
I'm
going,
doing good.
everyone?
Doing good. I'm doing good. We got a few people hanging out in chat with us, and just did a little question in there. Make sure if you got your cat or your Padme, let us know 6 and 7 in there. I see Ben coming out with many sixes. Yeah, I got him covered. I told him you and I both got him. So
Yeah.
and then sevens in there. Then it looks like Richard Simpson's got the sad face because he got neither. So I know here in Canada we got pushed back at least a week. I got mine in from Poland, so I'm about a week ahead of the curve. But it's a constant threat here for us to miss out on the street dates. So hopefully we get that sorted.
I'm loving the new packaging style. I'm loving the options on the sprue. I'm loving the new instructions on the white background. A little easier to see. We're getting colored pictures now and stuff. Good
Right.
good showing from FFG for sure. Really excited. And
Absolutely.
I like how they're actually labeling the faction. Uh,
Right.
that's kind of cool. Makes it a little
Yeah.
easier if you're browsing the shelf if you're a new player, what goes with what. So,
Yeah, they take up a little less real estate on the shelf too,
mhm.
which is nice. So, oh, that's disappointing. Rich said he actually ordered from Asmodee directly and didn't get them. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. Hopefully soon, my friend. Hopefully soon. So,
Yeah, for
okay,
sure.
we got a ton of stuff I want to rip through here in the intro because we have two guys waiting in the wings, and we got several things on the docket today. We're going to be talking some supports. We're going to be talking about some. Well, Joe and I are going to recap kind of what we have going on right now, and then Joe and Christopher Zenga are going to lead us through a conversation. I'm going to save the preview for that until we move through a little bit, but stick around for that, and I think everyone will have something to either contribute or take away from that discussion. So. Well, Joe, let me start off with you because you have been busy. I'm going to just throw up a couple
Yeah.
things here as you're talking.
Yeah, I've been so I mentioned last week I got another 3D printer going, and so I've basically been running two 3D printers like 24 hours a day, making terrain. I've got if you take a 6x3 mat right now, I've got 50% coverage in unpainted gray plastic terrain that I've printed so far. So this is just a small little sample of the stuff I'm working on. But basically, I've had a tattooing table for a long time using a lot of like the Imperial terrain files from like the first year. And now I'm kind of turning that one Moss Isley table into three tattooing tables. So I'm going to do
Okay.
one that's focused on the Dune Sea specifically. So it's got a Sarlacc pit. It's got like some crashed skiffs. It's got a whole like Tuscan Raider village that I'm going to have going for that. And then I'm going to split the Moss Isley table into two and do two different sections of the city. So I want to do one that's more like the market square with the market vendor stalls, and then another one that's more focused on like a spaceport. So I've got like
Okay.
a Hasbro Slave One to put in there, like a lot of cool stuff. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
just cranking away. Now I got to start getting painting. The guys in the 312th Legion group chat have been teasing me. They're like, "Yeah, the prints look good. You got to paint them now." So
Yeah. Well, I
yeah.
mean, if you just ease into it and just gray primer them for a while, you feel better about you can say you're starting the process and it just gets a
Yeah.
little bit that's all you got to say. So, okay, well that's cool. I can't wait to see that stuff and primarily you got all Imperial terrain stuff. Is that where you're pulling all this stuff here from or
Yeah, I would
like I'm not
say
sure.
nine.
I don't know all the
I'd say like 90% of it's Imperial terrain, and the other 10% is just like free Thingiverse stuff that I've stumbled upon. Or like, there's one guy
cool.
that has an Etsy store. I can't, and I apologize because I can't remember the name, but he's putting out the Sorgan table, like you might have seen the prints of it from the Mandalorian, that fishing village. And I
Oh,
grabbed a
okay.
couple. He put out some barricades for free that you don't have to purchase. So I just printed those real quick.
All right.
But I'll probably actually eventually get around to printing that table too because I like the design of it a lot. That's like a pretty cool episode of the show. So
Secretly, Joe's just fallen asleep to the hum of 3D printers, so it's like his new sleep aid. So,
yeah, yeah, they're actually pretty loud. Like my girlfriend's like, you have to keep the door shut. Like keep the door shut
right.
in your office or I can't. Yeah.
I was actually trying to help you out there, Joe, so you could sell that. I was just trying to like,
Yeah,
I need this. It's therapeutic. So,
it's a
okay,
natural
awesome.
sleeping. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So I have been busy too, not doing terrain, but instead painting walls. Um, so what I decided to do is I decided to flip and expand my entire studio space. So this is literally just what I've been working on, painting walls. So I will have the entire thing done probably for next Tuesday. So I'll have a new backdrop behind me because you can see it's just white here too. And then Friday Night Fights will feature a really cool and new look. So that's coming out, but I just wanted to let you guys know that it's been a little bit of a process. I actually blame Christopher Zenga, who's on show tonight, because he commented in the last Friday Night Fight about seeing a bottom of a light stand and a cable. And so I've taken on the challenge of trying to eliminate all the extraneous stuff. I'm sending him the bill actually for all the cable extensions and the cable management pieces. But so Christopher Zenga, I'm going to clean it up just for you, and you can quit trolling me in the comments. Thank you. Carrying on, we're going to talk a little bit about getting cat. I had it in the previews there, but I just wanted to throw this photo up. It's circulating around Facebook as well as the FBI had this photo, so I just want to throw that up. If you've seen this man right here, perhaps you recognize him. I've just thrown the shades in here for scale so you can see. It's unclear whether he actually made this purchase or not. Rumor has it he perhaps paid for one or two. But if you have seen this man right here, of course, this is Ben from Dice Time, and I believe the photo was taken by his accomplice, Bob Swain. So if you guys have, if you guys are missing your cads, I think Rich in comments, send hate mail to Ben. Again, this is a photo for reference. You can screenshot this, and we'll give you an 8x10 signed picture that you can post up in your local store. Do not sell Cad Banes to this man. Is the PSA there? So awesome. That's all the trolling I have time for here. But why don't we quickly jump over Joe and say hello to our guests? How about that?
Absolutely.
Hello, friends.
Welcome. We got Christopher Zenga and Paul Watson in the house tonight. Welcome, guys.
How's it going?
How you doing?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Bob just coming in real quick in chat. I made him put them back before the store owner came and thought he was going to buy them all. Fantastic. I appreciate that. Keep him in check. So hey guys, it's been a little while and we've all been kind of cooped up, and so why don't we, before we jump into too many heavy Legion things, why don't you give us a recap of what you've been up to and how you're staying sane here in the COVID era? I mean, whoever wants to go first.
Not all jump in here at once. I've been building these new sweet models here.
Nice.
Man, nice. The models are just fantastic. Unfortunately, I can't get them to the table. I probably have like 2 lists for every one of these new models that has come out recently. I haven't actually gotten physically to the table with even Cassie and K2, Aiden. I have them all in a line here that I've now built. I have, like I said, a couple lists for each of them that I want to try, and still stuck at home for the majority of the time. So yeah. I'm getting by building and just enjoying the models, and the quality has really increased since the beginning of sure. Legion, and Fantasy Flight's doing a fantastic job with these models.
Definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, Paul. I haven't played a physical game of Legion in months. I think it was March 13th, 14th, Pi Day. Was the last time I played a physical game of Legion. But we still have TTS, I guess, so that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zenga, what about you?
So I'm kind of the opposite of that. So I'm not playing clones. So I haven't been buying up all the new cool hot Clone Wars minis. But because I have an 11-year-old who loves the game, I'm getting to play every other day. So I'm getting probably maybe 3 games in a week.
Awesome.
And I just finished up painting Cass and K2 for Ethan and Aiden and her little droid for me, so I'm going to get them on the table hopefully sometime this week, and I modified our list a little bit to include them now, just kind of mix it up, because as you know, for like Rebel and Empire players, that's been it for the last little while as far as excitement and new releases. So
Right.
I'm gonna give them a whirl. And Iden, I think she's my favorite, maybe Star Wars character with Inferno Squad ever. And that's a bold statement. I love the whole concept, so I'm really excited to get her on the table and give it a whirl.
That's awesome,
Right.
man. Glad to hear you're able
fantastic.
to keep playing that much. That's really cool.
I'm very lucky. I'm lucky. I've got a little one who likes Crisis Protocol. My eldest one could care less, and Ethan loves Legion. So I'm getting tabletop in a bunch, whether it's Legion or
Nice.
something else.
Nice.
Right. The closest I get to is a real game is actually 6 feet away on Friday night fights when I'm casting. So I'm really getting a little bit jealous of people playing. So I think next week, not this week coming, but the following week after, I think I'm going to play on stream. So that'll be fun. So, and I think you are going to join us this Friday. Is that right, Chris?
Yep, absolutely.
Fantastic. So you and Joe are gonna get the rip on Jason, whoever we line up to play him. So that should be super fun. So
well, I'm only coming to rip on Jace. The only reason for my appearance.
It's actually pretty much the only reason my house exists is to host that game so that we can rip on him. So yeah, it's pretty much a pastime of mine. So fantastic. Bob in chat saying that he's got one game at least for the past 15 weeks. So that's fantastic. So look out for Bob Swain Worlds, whatever the next one is, because he's practiced up. So I like it. I like it.
Don't tell Luke, we're coming for him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what do you want to? You guys want to jump into arcs? You want to go supports? What do we want to do here?
Let's talk arcs, man. We got the article. We're all hyped. Everyone wants to see Echo and Fives, right?
All right,
let's do it. Yeah.
Here we go. Echo and Fives here. So let's just quickly start off by this. And Joe, maybe I'll let you walk us through this one right here, because I know that in my local area, when this came out, there was a little bit like a little bit of a spoil, I think, came out, and people were referencing that too, wondering what that was. So
yeah, so it's basically just means that specific model Fives has 2 health.
Right. So, there was a lot of speculation around that because people have never seen that. So
it's definitely new. It's definitely something that FFG is setting a precedent for to be included in the future, which I think it's a great, interesting concept. So it has nothing to do with courage. I know there's some confusion if that has something to do with courage. It doesn't apply to the whole squad, so it doesn't suddenly make your squad have like 10 health. It's just the model. And then you essentially can allocate the wounds just like you would any other model. So if you want to for some reason kill Fives first, you can assign him the wound, and then he'll have to take the second wound. Or in the case of Fives, he's actually got the leader keyword, so he is technically the last to die as long as everyone in your squad can be seen. So he has 2 health. He just hangs on. He just preserves the keywords for your squad for that 1 extra health. So you're running a full arc squad. It's got 6 effective health instead of 5. I think it's really interesting.
Let me throw up Fives, or let me throw up Echo here, and we'll get to Fives in a second. But let me ask you this too, because this question came up in my local scene, and I thought it was a good question. People are wondering, this leader keyword, the mini is your unit leader. Now,
yes.
People were wondering, do I physically replace the leader model in my unit, like take one out and put Echo or Fives in?
So I think that's really truly personal choice, because at this point there's no real rules around how you choose to hobby, and especially in the world where silhouettes exist, like you're encouraged to change your poses and be expressive. So if you really love the unit leader pose, you can put him in your squad, certainly. He's just not the unit leader anymore. Echo is.
Right.
So if you're if Echo is in your squad and you want to move, you're putting the movement tool against the Echo model. You can still put the old unit leader model in your squad as just like a body if you want.
Right.
But
yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was a good question. It kind of relates to the hobby. There's a little bit of there's a little bit of confusion whether, okay, does this replace my unit leader, meaning I need to physically take him out and echo or fives as the replacement for that. That's not it. And I think the
Right.
piece is not necessarily keyword, but it says add one fives mini. It's
Yeah,
not
and
add
you
one
can
subtract one. Yeah,
right, and you can see in the bottom left corner that he's a personnel upgrade.
yeah,
So he's still a personnel upgrade, right?
right.
I'm pretty sure there's this. The Pathfinders already have this going on with like I don't remember which of the two, if it's Pow or Bistan, but they already have this keyword. This has been in the game for quite a while already. But yeah, it's just going to be I think the first time that the clone faction actually has access to a replaced unit leader with a name.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
I mean the box of ARC Troopers comes with several sculpts, so
Mhm.
use whichever five you think look the coolest. I mean, that's up to you.
Right. No, and I think a lot of people are probably going to be seeing themselves picked up maybe one or two or three boxes of ARC Troopers. So potentially you're going to have the ability to maybe have the odd extra one in there. So if you choose to, replace a leader with a more generic trooper, if you're running Echo and Fives in a unit, you could make that distinction. Because I can see there being a little bit of confusion if somebody's not paying attention, or maybe you have some alt heads in there, and then you have two or three headless clone troopers in there, and then there's some confusion whether who's who. So I think as a courtesy to your opponent, if you are running the arcs in any sort of weird configuration, just simply walk them through your unit and say, this is who's leading it. This is what I have here. I think that's a nice courtesy to anybody that you play. So
Yeah,
specifically when you're hobbying, maybe outside of the straight box pieces. So
yeah.
and Paul and Chris, of course, are still with us here, so feel free to chime in. But why don't we just have a look here at Echo, and maybe I'll bring fives up just so we can run them parallel here and compare the two. So what jumps out to you guys at first glance here? Got a 30 and a 36 and a 40 point model here.
Why don't we walk through the stats for the people that are only going to be listening to like the
Sure.
podcast?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so the first thing to point out is that both Echo and Fives they have the little dot symbol next to their name, meaning that they are unique. So you cannot take two Echoes in your list. You can only take one, right? That's pretty much a given. They're a named character. Um, I'll go through Echo first, and then I'll go through Fives, and then I'll open it up, and we can just chat about all of them. How does that sound?
Yep, perfect.
All right, cool. So Echo is essentially a replacement for the sniper um, that we've seen preview, the DC-15X trooper that we've seen previewed for a while. So he shoots at range 1 to 5. He throws 2 red dice instead of red black, and he has 2 health instead of 1. The interesting thing about Echo and Fives as well is that what it says on their card is that they can actually go in an ARC Trooper squad or a core unit clone trooper squad.
Very big.
So if you want to put Echo into a phase 2 squad or a phase 1 squad, you can. Now, I said earlier that they're a personnel, but I believe they're actually a heavy weapons upgrade slot. I misspoke there. So it's important to note that you can't, if you want to put Echo into like your phase 2s, you can't run a Z6. Like Echo replaces your Z6. Same slot, right? But so Echo gives you reliable 1, which means at the start of the activation phase you gain a surge token. Notably, if you wanted to put this in a phase 2 squad, you'd have reliable 2, right? So you just get
Yep.
2 surges. That's pretty nasty.
Mhm.
He's got critical 1, which so does the DC-15X. He's got lethal 1, so does the DC-15. Immune to deflect, so if you want to shoot at lightsaber users, they can't pop you back. And he's the leader for 40 points. So I believe the DC-15 is 31 points.
Yeah.
So yeah. So he's 9 more points, but he upgrades your die to double red instead of red black, and he gives you reliable 1. And and he's
And he's an extra health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a pretty worthwhile 9-point investment, I think.
I mean,
think
even
if
if you
yeah,
even if you cut him in half and say he's basically 20 points per wound,
yeah,
that's a significant benefit or discount to the 31 point DC 15.
for sure. All right, let's talk fives, and then we can just kind of talk about all of this. So fives is he seems like he's more of like a traditional, almost like stormtrooper style upgrade, where he caps out at range 3. He's not shooting at range 5, so he's range 1 to 3. Throws 3 black dice. Also has 2 health. Also can be attached to a core clone trooper unit or an arc trooper unit. This is kind of an interesting keyword that he has too. So he gains coordinate clone trooper, which means after you're issued an order, you may issue an order to a friendly clone trooper unit at range 1. And he's also got the leader keyword, and he's 36 points. So coordinate's pretty awesome because that has a huge synergy with Rex's 2-pip, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But let's shoot this over to Paul. Paul, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh man, so many thoughts. These 2 cards are amazing.
Yeah.
The first thing that I thought is fives is ridiculous. Just the options it opens up for clones with giving that coordinate. Even if you're on a 1-pip and you give it to him, now 2 clone trooper units get tokens instead of just 1.
Right.
It's something that clones really can benefit from with the fire support, and I feel like fives is going to just increase the amount of chances that you have to pull off a good fire support play.
Yes.
Also with that, I think one of the things in this game, there's always a lot of talk of efficiency, and if you look at efficiency of fives, even if he is the only man on the field for his squad, he is almost just as good as an entire basic squad of clone troopers by himself.
Yes.
And
100%.
you're only paying 36 points for him.
Yes. And you know what I missed out on when I was describing his keywords? I skipped an important first sentence. Your courage is increased
Courage.
by 1.
Yeah. Phase 1's courage 2.
Yep.
Very
Phase
good.
2's courage 3. I mean, come on.
Yep.
Strap offensive push or something on them, and they're pretty much always getting 2 actions.
Hey, if you happen to lose your leader, Rex or Obi, and you're looking to quickly promote a squad, and you got 5s leading the squad, seems pretty good to get that courage 3 bubble. Seems good.
Better. Yeah.
Exactly.
So and
sorry, Rex.
Looking at Echo too, I feel like kind of what you talked about, Joe. You put him in that phase 2 unit, and now all of a sudden you have a 2 red dice sniper, essentially, who's going to last a really long time. Phase 2s are already hard enough to kill, and then you're getting reliable 2, making them and everybody around them that much harder to kill.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, come on, in a faction that likes to share tokens, just having all those extra surges on the table, 2 surges instead of 1, I mean, it just makes you more of a death trooper unit, right?
Yeah,
like,
I definitely think that the reliable is really good, especially when you can stack it up like that. I tend to just go with phase 1s a lot of times because that extra 8 points to get up to phase 2s, I'm like, man, it's really expensive, and you have to cut some things out of your list to get there if that's what you want. And these 2 units make phase 1s that much better by just plopping them in phase 1s or even phase 2s, making it that much more worth those extra 8 points that you're spending. I think they're going to be staples in a lot of clone lists for the foreseeable future, for sure.
Yeah. And I think if you were finding room to work in a couple of DC 15s, like 2 to 3, I think it's probably worth trying to find 9 points somewhere where you can just make one of them Echo.
Yeah, and I haven't even touched on the health part, which is what you guys have mentioned as well. You think a basic clone trooper, just the trooper itself, they average 13 points to 15 points if you're doing the phase 2s, but 13 points a wound is what you're paying for a clone trooper, and these guys are 2. I mean, so that's 26 points right there just for their wounds.
Yes.
And that's not including they're getting either extra dice or better dice plus all of these keywords for the slight upgrade in points that you're, paying.
Yeah. I really feel like a lot of lists going forward are probably just going to have Rex, Echo, and Fives stapled in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you're not running a Kenobi list, you're probably just going to put all three of these guys somewhere in your list.
And another thing that I've noticed when playing clones is Rex for me either sits back and is very much a support token sharing unit, or he's super aggressive and then lots of times he gets into a position where he gets killed. With these two in your list, it's not bad to play Rex aggressively and get him up there and into the fight and using his gunslinger, and shooting multiple things. Because if he dies, you have these really solid trooper unit leaders that can take over that role of commander. Sometimes, in the case of Fives, if you're putting them on a phase 2 unit, even better than Rex did to begin with. So,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, just off the top of my head, I'm just kind of thinking like some synergies here. You have Fives in just a standard clone phase 1 trooper unit. You got Echo in a full arc unit. You drop a 1-pip, you throw it on Fives. Fives going to coordinate over to Echo's unit. You do an Echo arc trooper shot with a fire support of an additional 7 black dice. You got critical 1, lethal 1, reliable 2, so you got 2 surge tokens. Likely you have an aggressive tactics in there. That's another 2 free surges. That's a massive pool into a lightsaber user, and you're not worried about deflect.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good alpha on a lightsaber user.
Yep,
off a 1-pip that you normally would not be able to throw that kind of firepower in.
Absolutely.
I completely agree, man. And let's not forget the best part. The Fives art literally has him decapitating a battle droid with his hands. Well, like, come on. Who doesn't want to put that on the table?
Sadly, that described fire support that I just had. Don't shoot that at a B1 unit. You don't need that play at a B1 unit. Any one of these solo can take them out. So, okay.
I know that we've talked a little bit. And maybe we can get into this a little bit more too. But the models, like we've talked about, the new models that are coming out are amazing. And we've all seen the pictures already for these ARC troopers and what they look like, and the flight stands, and the fact that the new silhouette rule is in play makes it so you can model your guys up on those flight stands and not have to worry about being at a disadvantage. It's just going to add so much of a cool factor to the game when you're playing, to have these ARC troopers, flying around the board, or appearing that they are. And I'm super excited for the different ways that people are going to, model their ARC troopers with these really awesome models and how they're going to use them. I know I've talked with, I think it was you, Joe, about getting Rex on a flight stand or something like that to make him look, like he's flying around as well. I can't wait for some of the stuff that people are going to come up with.
Man, so I've been having a really hard time finding Rex. I'm pretty sure Rex is like sold out. But I want to get another Rex just because I want to put a jetpack on him.
I shouldn't say this.
Go ahead, Sean.
I was just going to say, I literally just resold a Rex to a local here today, because I ended up finding another Rex that I picked up. So, and then in our local group chat, he said, "Oh, I'm looking for a Rex." I was like, "Oh man, come over here. I got one for you." So I did not know
Joe
was looking for one.
They're all in Canada. Come on, go. If you see a Rex, let me know. Pick it up for me.
I'll find you another one for sure.
Awesome.
I love the segue though by Paul and Joe there. So Zenga, I'm throwing this over to you. You now have the ability within your units, and I know you're not, scratch that about the jetpack, but this next one, Ascension cables, you now have the ability in, let's say, the Imperials that you're running, to take at least Ascension cables. So let's talk about jetpack and Ascension cables and what they're going to do for the game.
So cool. Let me read through the cards. So basically, the jetpacks just give you they're a gear upgrade. They're 10 points. They give you jump 2, and if you happen to put this upgrade on Captain Rex, it's 5 points instead of 10. So if you ask me, I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna try to find a way to staple this to Rex, because I often run Rex with environmental gear just so he doesn't slow down. Right now I could pay 2 more points and give him jump 2 instead of environmental gear. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But if you want to pay one less point than 5, you can pay 4 points, and this is an upgrade that really got me excited. So, Ascension Cables, 4-point gear upgrade. It's a free action to use it, but it also exhausts the card. And it says until the end of your activation, you gain scale. All right, so I'm going to give my thoughts on Ascension Cables for one unit in particular, and then I want to hear Zenga's thoughts on them. So when I play Palpatine, I auto include a set of Royal Guards. And when I include a set of Royal Guards, I staple environmental gear to my Royal Guards for 3 points so that they can hop barricades and they can move over area terrain at full speed, and they don't have to worry about they're basically a melee class, and they don't have to worry about getting in because I put environmental gear on them. For 1 extra point, I give them scale, which has all the effects of environmental gear built in, plus the ability to scale up and down buildings. This is an auto include for me in a Royal Guard unit. So Zenga, what are your thoughts on it?
I was thinking the same thing. I feel like I've been playing this game for so long, and I never ever play vertical. I just don't. I don't clamber up anything. I don't go to top the rooftop. I stay on the ground, and there's so much more you can do in your game if you know you can go up with ease. Mm-hmm. And now you're essentially saying to me that I can get my IRG up with 0 penalty to their movement. Essentially, it's like you said, it's the same card, but now you can go vertical.
Yeah, for one more point, I can find that point somewhere.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
This is insane. I'm hoping, like I said, off the cast, I'm not playing clones, and I hope we get like a card pack where I can get this card without having to buy a clone box set, because I would love to have this card now.
Oh, I'll tell you.
Inferno Squad would be my guess. They got to be an Inferno Squad, right?
Inferno Squad is 100% going to have them, because FFG has set the precedent from the beginning of the game that they are never going to make faction-specific cards. They don't want to create the issues that they had with early X-Wing, where you were buying ships you didn't need for the cards. So every single release for if it's a generic upgrade like Ascension Cables is, it will be in one of the releases for your faction. So 100% the next 2 things that are coming out are Clan Ren and Inferno Squad, like around the same time as the ARC Troopers and the BX Troopers. I would fully expect Ascension Cables to be included in like all 4 of those kits, right?
I would agree.
That'd be fantastic. I'm gonna buy all kinds of Inferno Squad boxes when those things come out. I'll move to Saskatchewan for that.
I will just say, like, with Ascension Cables, that scale keyword is so good. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen a player get wrecked by Grievous because of scale.
Yeah. Man,
just don't realize that he can just essentially jump over a building in 1 turn and still attack you. And like you said, with the Royal Guard, you can charge at the end of that. Mm-hmm. So
no, I mean I think this just gets stapled to like a bunch of units, right? I mean, scale is so good for anything that wants to melee, because here's the thing. I would even make the argument that because this is gear, you could probably put it on Commander Luke, even though he already has jump, because when he jumps, he stays on top of a building and he can't get down. So now he can move and scale down or something. I would try it. I'm not saying it's going to be like a mandatory thing, but I think there's so much potential to try this on different units here.
I just saw, I'm following along in the chat on my phone. I saw Keith mention something now, because it exhausts. If you untap it to ready it when you're on top of a building, then you can come down the building unhindered and not clamber.
Well, yeah. So this says, it actually, the first sentence says.
Yeah, that's exactly. Read the first sentence, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So think about it on Royal Guards. Like, you activate it at the start of your activation. You say, for this whole activation, I have scale. This is activation, not action. So it's your whole turn with that unit. You move into contact with a building, you climb up it for free. You're now on top. That was your first action. You're now on top of the building. You move forward on top of the building and you climb down it for free. Yeah. And if there's something on the other side of the building, you trigger charge.
Yes.
Or even if you positioned yourself well for the ascension cables play, you're already up against a building when you start your turn. You clamber up, move full to the other edge of the building, then clamber down and get a full move away from the building into somebody.
Right. Yeah. So the thing I've always said about scale is it's deceivingly good for getting extra distance out of your double moves.
Absolutely.
Because if you lay down if you look at Grievous, for example, if you lay down 2 speed 2 movements, you only get a finite distance. It's like just under range 2. But if you're going to go like up a building, across it, down it, and then move again, you can use the like lips of your building and the shape and angles of the walls of the building to get 5, 6, 7, 10 millimeters farther.
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially getting double base width plus a little extra because, like you said, the building itself, the edge of it.
Yes, you get your whole base because it's like your base has to go up and then land on the lip of the building. So you moved an additional base length that you wouldn't have moved if you were just moving across the flat ground. So you can really cheese that to like move pretty large distances. It's deceiving. And there's a lot of times when people have been like, was that illegal? How did you move that far? And I'm like, I scaled it. Look at how look at the trajectory. This was fully legal, and I got like a full range 2 distance, right? Or like or a little more than it, you know?
Stuff like this blows my mind, and I've been playing the game since launch day. I can't imagine someone who's brand new to the game tuning in, listening to this, and going, "What?" just completely being taken aback by the whole concept of a 4-point card.
Yes, yeah, that good. It's that good.
I think it's really important too if you really want to look at what scale can give you. If you look at almost any building, there's very few buildings that are straight 4-corner 90-degree boxes. So any little jut out from a building or doorway or lip, when you place your movement template, you can't make a perfect corner. You always have to leave the room for the base. The second you add a little stanchion or an abutment, you're automatically changing your distance and likely for a decreased distance. So you try to go around a corner of a building, it's got a little, jutty on the corner. You're now losing distance. If you just take all that math out and you go straight up and straight across and straight down, that truly will show you how much move. I dare say that it probably takes less movement to go across a building than it would take 2 movements to go around 2 corners. And you can math this out on lots of buildings, and I have using Imperial Terrain buildings. They all have little pieces and stuff that stick out of them. If you're using the movement tool correctly, remember you have to leave that space of your base. It's incredible how much distance you can save with the scale keyword. Grievous is a prime it's an astronomical amount. So I encourage people to just put a building down and just play around with it. And Keith's pointing out here that you do have to, he's saying that sometimes he's got caught out in no man's land seemingly with Grievous getting stuck on the top of a building. You do need to really kind of math this out. So it is good to kind of mess around with that. But I will tell you that scale will save you an incredible amount of distance, and it really couples with a lot of keywords like relentless and charge and Grievous's gun. All those things you just get added range on all those end of activation keywords.
Yeah, and
you guys want to predict, because again, you're more competitive players than I am. Will this card be, for lack of a better word, like the card you see in a lot of lists next year's tournament scene? Assuming we have one, because it's going to be the next big move.
I mean, I think if you're playing a melee unit that has charge, you pretty much want to put scale on it, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'd probably
that's
say I don't think that everyone is going to be running Ascension cables. But
totally.
I think
No.
that the people who are running Ascension cables are going to do some really tricky things with it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
let me add this. If I have to keep track of one unit in a game that has scale, I feel it's manageable, but it is something I always have to do extra measurements and pay extra attention to the range bands. If you present me with 2 or 3 units with scale, it's a little bit nightmarish as an opponent, to be perfectly honest, to keep my units safe and out of melee.
Oh, I know for a fact I've heard I mean, the new BX commando droids that are coming out have scale, and a lot of people are running them in triplicate. And I know it's really like when people were first going up against them, they were just like, "What is happening?"
Yeah.
Like, like how did you just get those 3 units in my face so quickly? You know, so like it's definitely a thing. I think you can find room for Ascension to make Ascension cables worth it on a unit, maybe like a snow trooper or something. But I still think that's like unexplored territory. I definitely would like to like try it and tech it, but this card right here for me is a step in the right direction for Palpatine lists. Something I've really wanted for a long time. So I think that's going to be really cool.
I guess one thing like I want to say about these 2 cards, the Jetpacks and Ascension cables, and Kyle here in the chat has also mentioned this. He says now we need Naboo Guard, and you know that's one of the coolest things in Episode 1 is when all those Naboo Guard and Padme go out on that window ledge and they get out their Ascension cables and shoot up to the top floor, and that's exactly like what you see in the pictures with those clones. They're shooting their Ascension cables out of their guns. They're going to fly up to that building. It's just very thematic when you think about how the play in game matches what you think it would do in a movie or in a show or something like that. And I think it just adds to that cool factor of the game again. And even people who aren't competitive are going to enjoy flying their ARC troopers around with their jetpacks up on buildings and shooting stuff, and then down and shooting something else. And it's just going to be a lot of fun for all the players, I think.
I like and you can have objectives now, all over the map, high and low, and you can get up and down and all around, and you don't have to keep the objectives in the same boring spots that they've always been. I feel like there's a chance for hobbyers to really make some really creative terrain that will allow the minis to get all up and around the terrain like never before. From a creative standpoint, I'm loving the idea that I could build like a tower or the top of Vader's castle, and you have to get up there, and you can get up there.
And you know what? I think there was like a precedent in the early competitive seasons where people were like, you don't want to put a building in the center of a table because it puts like a Boba Fett or a Sabine or a Luke at a crazy advantage because they could just jump on top of it and grab a recover the supply box. And so if you're playing a list that doesn't have that, you're like, this table is trash. But now FFG is just being like, here's a 4-point upgrade you can put on anything with a gear slot that makes it so you can't even make that argument anymore.
Yeah.
Let's build cool tables, right?
And I think that opens up, again, we're going to see more and more objective cards come out and more specific lists who are going to be gearing their objective deck towards their list. And if I sit down at the table against somebody and I have 3 ARC troopers with jetpacks and we're playing recover the supplies, well, now I can put 2 of my boxes up on a really tall building, and I can almost guarantee that my opponent will never touch those.
Right.
And then I can go compete with the other boxes that are on the field. I don't even have to worry about my 2 boxes anymore.
Exactly.
That's wild.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff like that. And a lot of options that you didn't really feel like you had before. A lot of people felt like they didn't ever want to climb or be up on any sort of vertical terrain. But we're seeing too, on top of this card, people are basically house ruling ladders now on your tables to give you scale, or ropes or anything like that. So the use of the scale keyword, I think, is fixing a lot of those early day problems that people had.
Absolutely.
It's making things more interesting. Let's jump into these last 2 upgrades.
Yeah. Just before we go there, too, I just want to drop this piece for Zenga just as he's just kind of theory craft out Ascension cables. Just keep in mind, too, that scale allows you to go up to height 2 it's not just height 1. So as you're
which
starting to
good.
exactly, so just keep that in mind, Chris, when you're thinking about your guards, because a lot of people, I find that a lot of people think that scale is just a height 1, and they get really surprised when it's like, nope, I'm all the way up here now.
Yeah.
This huge piece of terrain that you had no inclination that I was even going to move over, and then here I am moving it across it. So, and a lot of times I find that height 2 stuff is fairly small, so it's less than a speed 2 across. You get a lot of like just more cylindrical pieces of terrain, so that makes your movement seem even more incredible. So just keep that in mind, that the scale word does allow you to up to height 2. So yeah, so the last 2 here before we move on is EMP droid poppers and situational awareness. I'll cover these 2 off here, Joe. EMP is 3 points. It is a grenade. It is range 1 with 1 black dice. And while 1 or more of this weapon is in your attack pool gains ion 1. And if you're not familiar with that, that means a vehicle or a droid wounded by this attack gains 1 ion token. Sad face for droid. That is the equivalent of having a suppression and counting for a lost action, which can hurt you very badly. The other one is situational awareness. While equipped to a support unit, which we're going to cover next, you can increase this card's points by 4. So it's a 2-point upgrade, but if it's on a support, it's going to cost you 6. That's okay. It's still awesome because you gain outmaneuver, and that keyword says that you can spend dodge tokens to cancel crits.
Yep.
Seems
it's a
very
training
good.
slot.
That's correct. Sorry, training slot.
So yeah, the reason that first sentence exists is literally because tauntauns.
Yep.
Because for 2 points, this upgrade would be way too good on tauntauns, because tauntauns just get dodges when they move, and they're always moving. So to pay 2 points to let them cancel crits with dodges would make a unit that's already extremely strong way stronger. So they built in that. Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. Not everyone's got high velocity in their list, Sean.
I'm just saying, bring high velocity, because situational awareness is going to be everywhere. So, Chris, your previous question about essential cables, I'll go out on a limb and say situational awareness, we are going to see a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, come on, if you're a force user with a training slot, you kind of want this. Like, I see this going on Luke and Vader, like Operative Vader. Now, again,
Obi,
you've got to make that choice with Operative Vader. Do I take endurance or do I take this? That's a hard choice. But for 2 points, I don't know, man. Canceling crits with your dodges is pretty nice.
That seems to be the sweetest revenge, is when you have a card that can cancel crits. Like, I know everyone has a different opinion about what their I definitely want to do this all the time, or I definitely want to do that all the time. This seems really tempting for 2 extra points.
Yeah. I think now this is going to get expensive. But I think there's an argument to be made where you can like take a Rebel Trooper unit that has a captain and put this upgrade on them for 2 extra points, because Rebel Troopers in general like to dodge. The problem with dodging for the Rebel faction is like the prevalence of the critical keyword and all the crit generation, and the way that crits just go through your dodges and cover, so it doesn't matter that you're dodging. This fixes that, but the problem is it's a training slot. So if you want to put it on Rebel Troopers, you have to pay like 14 points extra to take a captain.
Right.
So it's like a pseudo fix for that concept, but also it starts getting expensive, maybe counterintuitive to what the Rebel faction is even looking to do with their Rebel Troopers, but it's an option. I think if you're playing Tauntauns, you're just going to go, my Tauntauns cost +6 and this card gets stapled to them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see a reason why not to do that.
Joe, isn't one of the most fun things about this game is exactly this discussion we're having now? We are sitting there going, should I, shouldn't I? And you're weighing your options, and
For sure.
you take it into a battle, and it doesn't work the way you want it to. You think, well, maybe I'll take it off, or I'll give it another 2 or 3 rounds. Like this game is turning into a game where, and I've spoken a lot about having too many options and option anxiety that I get. But this is exciting to kind of have a game that's evolving into something that is really giving you a lot of time to talk to your friends, talk to your group, get on the Discord, and really talk about many different options to play the same game.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with Paul a lot, and I've had this conversation with Sean a lot. But I think the state of Legion going forward is becoming more and more and more of a rock, paper, scissors than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Would you guys agree with that? Like, if you look at all these new options, I think you could build lists that are very specifically good at things and have weaknesses. And then your opponent could either have a list that you can just prey upon with your strategy, or your opponent can have a list that just like hard counters everything you're trying to do.
But then it all comes down to a dice roll anyway.
Yeah, that's
I think I've taken my latest like kind of build philosophy to basically accentuate this point. I'm not trying to build for everything anymore. I'm not trying to build for every table situation or scenario or army. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to maximize the efficiency within the units that I have. And then when I hit the table, I'm going to find situations where they're going to excel. I'm going to find situations where they're going to struggle. And I'm going to find situations where it is going to be exactly that, a dice roll here, a dice roll there. But I think the only thing that you can really control is you can control the build that you have. You can control the upgrades that you include. And you can control how your units function both positively and negatively. Where they struggle, and where they excel,
Yeah.
And so I think going into a game, that's the philosophy that you need to have. I think trying to analyze and plan for everything, you get analysis paralysis for sure. Yeah. And then it becomes really a questionable game where it's like, oh, I should have taken this, or why did I? You start questioning things. You have a choice. You have a logic going into a game. You should use that. And then you are going to run into those tough matchups where it just doesn't work for you. And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah, I've brought triple sabs to tournaments before and been like, I'm on a table that has no line of sight blockers. I am not going to win this game. And I guess it could be the same thing where you're like, I'm going a heavy like heavy armor skew type list where all like maybe 30 to 40% of my points are tied up in some heavies. And if your opponent takes a bunch of impact and ion, they're probably going to beat you. But you can't just assume that everyone is going to take your hard counter when you're building a list. And that's what's fun, right? So I like how this game is evolving in that way.
Yeah, I also think like all these different options, like you guys have talked about, you can't take them all. You have to pick. And at some point, I feel like all the different options that we're getting in Legion is going to have a lot of players who enjoy the theme of this game and are going to start taking things a little more like, well, now I can take my Rebel Trooper veterans and put that situational awareness on them. And now that free dodge token that they get every turn is really good. So now my Hoth force that I built, because I think it's cool to have everything from Hoth on the table, is now actually really good because of all these different upgrades that I can put on all my different units, my Tauntauns or my veterans. So I think that's going to be exciting to see some more people who come to events who are excited about the theme of the game as well and can still play a competitive game because of the options of upgrades that are available.
Does that mean more FD cannons, Paul?
I honestly, I have seen a local guy do really well with FD cannons. He just sets them up in fire lanes where, and I'll talk about them a little bit. Maybe it's a good segue to start talking about supports.
There you go.
They can be really good.
Yeah, I've seen them used well myself. They can certainly be extremely annoying with that new range 5 change, and I've seen them do some work, definitely.
Just before we jump over to that, I think it's a good segue, and I wanted you to talk situational awareness specifically about supports. as well. Paul, let's got a question coming in from, or a comment coming in from Kyle. I'll throw it up here. I'll read it. It says, I feel like the goal of the game would be for there not to be a rock, paper, scissors for various lists. Certain units, cards will counter others, but the goal should be that there are so many choices that you can't fully counter anyone's list because they are so diverse. And I think that point's very fair, right? And I think we mean by rock, paper, scissors, not like the take something and hope you run into really good matchups, and if you don't, too bad. But it is that option where you're going to need to pick something, and you are going to have natural counters out there, and you're going to have natural, I don't want to say easy wins, but you're going to have a natural advantage in some games as well. And I think that's a pretty good sign that the game is balanced. If everyone took a vanilla list with very few differentiation between the units, the game's going to be pretty boring, and you'll probably play the same game more times than you would play a unique game. So I'm glad it's got some diversity.
There's nothing worse than playing against the 12 activation naked core unit list. I want to see heroes and cool minis flying around, and I want you to go pew pew when you shoot. I don't want to see boring lists just because they're efficient. And I think this is gonna maybe prompt people to just play what you love, not what you think is gonna win.
Yeah, all for right, sure. And if you know that your friend is playing CIS before the game, you can just build a list that has droid poppers, ATRTs with flamethrowers, and a bunch of ion weapons.
Yeah.
And then and then you can just watch them have a bad time.
Yeah, and then you show up and you'd be like, I had no idea what you were going to bring.
Yeah. Oh, that's what you're playing. Oh.
Fantastic. Do you mind if I just switch? Do you mind if I just add these couple impact grenades too while we're here?
Yeah.
Just let me throw those in real quick. All right. So we're going to hard shift over here to supports, and then we're going to shift into an entirely different topic. But I want to send this next number out to Paul Watson. Paul, I especially made this for you, so please enjoy. Well, on that note, let's talk some supports. Specifically the bark counter.
Man. So you need to take my face off of here and put Paul's face on here. He's the bark expert.
We can probably do that. Let me see. I can at least get Paul there. I'll get rid of me. I'm gonna get rid of me. There's Paul. We're gonna put Zenga up. There you go. There's our guests.
Okay. Thanks for letting Chris join me here. Leaving my big old head on the screen.
We're just gonna jump off here, and you guys take it away on barks and all the upgrades. So.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like barks, I really enjoy them. I have since clones came out. I didn't want to. I went to what was it called at that point? Prime up there by you, Joe.
Yeah, the Game Storm Prime.
Yeah, Game Storm, and I wanted to take clones, but the generic list was a bunch of clone troopers and Obi-Wan and Rex, and that was it. Like that's what everyone was bringing, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to bring the same list as everybody.
And to be fair, it was basically you were working with the core set at that point, right?
Sure.
So right.
And plus Rex. I think Rex had just come out recently, right?
Yes.
There wasn't a whole lot of options at that point. And if people were running a bark, it was really probably because they didn't have enough clone trooper units to get the full 6 in their army, and they were bringing one. And the way I saw it is one, it's just gonna die. It'll get focused down. It's not going to do anything. So I'm like, well, I'm going to push this skew to its limit and take all 3 and see if I can leverage that advantage and see what happens. And it surprisingly worked out really well.
Yeah, it did.
The bark, I think that a lot of people talk about it being a little expensive, and I can agree with that for sure, especially with some of the other stuff that comes out. It's like, do I want to take 2 barks or do I want to take 1 saber tank? And there's that kind of conversation to be had. And but I think that they're just such a solid unit. They have those red defense dice, 5 health. the surge to hit makes a really good fire support platform for the clones. It's a repulsor vehicle, so it has the compulsory move built into it. So the action economy on it is pretty good. You can move, you can still aim and shoot. It always has that cover 1 on it, obviously, unless you're going against something with sharpshooter or whatever. But like, to me, that just adds to the amount of health that unit has, because it's always going to take away 1 hit.
Right. So can you talk about what you think like some of your favorite builds are, or maybe if you're gonna go all in and take like 2 or 3 in a list, do you take different heavies? Do you take the same heavy? Do you take link targeting array? How do you like to do it?
Yeah, well, I took, during that prime, I took the 1 ion gun, and I will tell you right now, I did not like it. Yeah. Because what I had just talked about with that action economy goes away when you have to recover every turn to get that gun back.
True.
It can be very good in certain situations. I just don't know that it's worth the hefty price tag to get there, when you also have to sacrifice an action to get it back every turn. Now, if it had cycle on it, I might actually use it. Because the basic Bark does have 2 weapons already built in. It has, the regular rifle for the driver, the gunner, and then it has the main gun, the front gun. And so if it had cycle, like one turn you're shooting with 4 dice, but the next turn you're shooting with 7 with ion and impact, that might be worthwhile. But I think that the ion gun is overpriced and it takes away from your action economy.
Yeah.
During that first prime, I did take the twin laser turret gun on it for 2 of them, and I ran link targeting arrays on those as well. Oh man, and you can attest to this, Joe. I was pretty regularly fixing that Bark with double aims into 6 to 7 hits.
Yes.
Every single turn.
Yes.
And it was essentially, no matter who I came up against, pretty much just wiping out basic trooper units in 1 shot, or crippling even like stormtroopers to the point where they weren't very useful anymore.
Yeah.
It was really effective. The problem comes in is Rex was the commander that I was running, and his command cards are not very good with vehicles. True. They are really good with the clone troopers. Yes. So Obi-Wan is actually better to run with his command cards. However, it gets really pricey when you're talking about 500 points tied up in 4 models.
Right.
So I'm excited to see what comes out in the future that might make these even better, with more command cards that can be issued orders to put that link targeting array on. Because again, with a repulsor vehicle, link targeting array is really solid. When you can get a double aim every turn and still move to get in position, and lots of, again, with that compulsory move, you're getting a lot of shots that can be out of cover.
Yeah.
So you're ignoring a lot of hits by doing that, by moving around. And then the last upgrade, which honestly I think is my favorite, is the rocket gunner.
Yeah.
And
one thing I like about it is it's not fixed front.
Yes, absolutely. It's not fixed front. When you're shooting it in the main gun, you get double rainbow. It's a really solid dice pool. And again, lots of times with the Bark, you're moving, aiming, and shooting. And so you're rolling a double rainbow with surge to hit with an aim token. It's a very consistent dice pool. And it seems to do a lot of work for me. And the reason I like it, it's got range 4. The downside of range 2 has always been one of those things that's talked about with like those rockets, is not as bad on the Bark because, again, it has that built-in other weapon already on there. So there has been times where I've gotten too close because the Bark is just moving along the battlefield, and I just don't shoot with the rocket. I just shoot with the main gun and then the extra blaster rifle and throw 4 dice instead of 6. And again, it's not a bad dice pool. 1 red, 2 black, and a white. I mean, it's pretty consistent, again, with an aim token. Or like you said, because it's not fixed front, even if you're real close, you should have that main gun shoot into a trooper unit that you're right in front of, and then you have that rocket gunner turn around and shoot something halfway across the board because it has range 4.
Yeah.
It's just I like the versatility of the rocket gunner, and then again, I think with what we're seeing now, there's a lot of people bringing tanks, at least in our area,
Mhm.
and there's always that risk. And by taking the rocket gunner, it gives that big upside if you go against armor. However, I don't feel like if you come up against a list that has 0 armor in it, you're really saying, "Oh man, I could have taken another weapon on this bark. It's not going to be useful anymore."
Let me come at the just. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Paul. Finish.
I was just going to say, like, one thing with supports in general, one of the things that I think about and look at them, I talked about a little bit about efficiency before when we were talking about 5s. And the thing about supports is they essentially don't lose very much efficiency until they're dead.
Right. That's their damage isn't tied to their effective health.
Right. And so
to an extent, you can have their weapon if you roll a red after their threshold, but
right. And again, in a situation like the bark speeder, you take out my heavy weapon. Well, now I'm still rolling 4 dice at you, so it's not bad.
Yeah. You take out the heavy and you lose 1 white die.
Right. And so or again, you take away one of the actions. Well, that's fine because I still have a compulsory move and a shoot. Or you make my move cost extra. Well, I don't really care about that because I'm a repulsor vehicle and I get a free move every turn anyway. So the barks really don't get hit by the damaged vehicle as hard as some of the other vehicles.
Very true. Now, my thought on the barks is the same thought I have on the droidicas, and that is that they're both of those units are a phenomenal design, but in the current space with the new stuff we've seen coming out, they're probably like 10 to 20 points over costed.
Yeah, I would agree. Like right now when I look at it, I look at a Phase 1 Z6 Clone Trooper squad at 77 points, and I think, man, for 16 more points, I could have a bark speeder with a twin laser gun on it, which is going to be a very efficient unit for much longer than that Z6 unit is.
Let me just jump in right there, Paul, because this is exactly where I want to go with this. I want to go to Zenga. So, Chris, you're not playing any clones right now, currently.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to come at this from a different angle because Paul has a very, very vast knowledge of barks, runs them from an experience level. Let me ask you this: as a player, if you were just picking up the Clone Wars faction for the first time, you're gonna open this bark unit, and you're gonna see the bark unit, you're gonna see the cost, and then you're gonna see these 3 upgrades with a plethora of keywords, and all seemingly have some sort of role that they define. Does this unit become appealing to you because you have so many options, or does this unit become daunting to you because you are not clear how to run this efficiently, and then you can see the efficiency within just the stock core trooper units with a heavy weapon added, and do you go that route because of this? Because I feel that the bark may potentially not see as much play because people don't have the knowledge that Paul does, and they run it with the wrong upgrade for the particular situation, or they use it incorrectly given the upgrades that they've taken, and then they don't see the success with it, and then therefore it gets a reputation of being too expensive or being inefficient or just having a bad play experience with it. Where do you kind of fall out on this?
So I have 2 thoughts on it. The first is essentially we would look at it as I always have list build anxiety. So I would look at these cards and go, I don't know where to start. There's a lot going on. I'm not entirely sure what I should do. Maybe I won't play. Maybe I won't play this mini. The other side of that is I do a lot of learn to play, and I bought the Clone Wars core set because my son wanted it, and we put the stuff on the table during a learn to play, and this kid came up. Clone Wars era was his first introduction to Star Wars. I'm born in the 70s, so this is not my first introduction to Star Wars, obviously. And he picked up the bark and went, "Whoa, just like the movie." And it didn't matter. At that point, it didn't matter. He was going to play that card. When he left that day, he bought core kit from my buddy who owned the store, and so I think they're twofold for someone like me who's not interested in this per se. It looks too daunting, but for someone who was blown away by how cool it looked and how screen accurate it was, and like again, I keep going back to this. Well, my son always says, "No, I want the guy with the rocket launcher." He's playing what's cool. He's playing. We don't even look at the twin laser. We don't look at the ion gunner because he's not holding a grenade launcher. And that is exactly how those two people look to build that list. Is they grab the cool model and the cool card, and off they went. And I
think the rule of cool.
Yeah, the rule of cool. I definitely think that you will get guys who are more inexperienced in gaming that might feel as too many options. I know a lot of guys who love options. They want more options. But at the end of the day, the two experience I had with this vehicle was exclusively based on the model and the dude holding the rocket launcher. And it full stop.
I'll tell you what, that's a very, very, very valid point. And here's why. So I spent 30 hours at Gen Con last year of my Gen Con experience working the FFG booth and demoing the Clone Wars core set for literally hundreds of people. I like in an 8-hour shift, which I worked multiple 8-hour shifts, I demoed to over 100 people in each 8-hour window.
That's awesome.
The Bark Speeder and the Droidicas were probably people. Well, scratch that. Kenobi and Grievous and setting them up so that they can clash into each other and fight was like the number one thing. But using the Bark Speeder was the favorite of many people that came in because they just felt like, and especially because it's set up where you're shooting at like B1s and the Barks are just gonna kill a bunch of them. So it felt like that unit was really strong and really fun to play.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that sold boxes over the course of that event. Like
I'll say this: there is no coincidence that when you open up the back of the magazine, the rules guide, and you see Terrain Studio Terrain and those minis set up in a scene, an action scene. This is not chance. This is all by design. People want to look at the picture of the battle, the narrative they're going to create, or a version of that they're going to create that's already in their mind, that's been in their mind since 2000 and whenever when the movie came out. Like they've been waiting their whole life to be able to reenact some version of the scene. And I am 100% convinced that you will get new buy-in if you sell the game based on, hey, look, it's your childhood on the table. Now here's the rules.
Right.
This is my personal opinion. That's just I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just how I think this game is going to continue to grow.
I agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was just gonna say, we were talking about being daunting when you look at a vehicle like this with a bunch of options, and I guess if I were to suggest to someone when they're trying a new unit, whether it's a support unit or honestly anything else, don't take it. Because I feel like oftentimes you take that one Bark Speeder in your list, turn one and get shot off the board, and you're like, wow, Barks suck.
Right.
But if you have three of them,
yeah.
I mean, there was a game where I lost a Bark in turn one during the Prime Championship, but it was like, okay, well, I still have two more that have now gunned down two of your squads. So even though one died, I still felt like the Barks were doing a lot of work for me because of them as a group.
Yeah.
And same thing, I think the same thing with Wookiees or something like that. Like if you're going to take Wookiees, don't just take one squad if you're just trying them out, because I think you'll be disappointed. Because someone on the other side of the table is going to be like, oh, they have that Wookiee squad. They clearly want to do something with it. Let me wipe it off the board before it does something nasty to me.
Right.
Whereas if you take two or three of them, it's like even if an opponent tried, the odds are they are not getting rid of 3 Wookiee squads before you get to get into melee combat and start hacking some guys up.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want to do, like, just don't be afraid to go all out. And essentially, I mean, that's what I did with the Prime. I had no idea at that point if Barks were good or not, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to put 3 of them on the table. I'm going to invest a lot in them. And you can attest to this, Joe. The command cards that I played all the generic command cards.
Yeah.
When I played them for the first 3 turns most of the time, because I wanted the Barks to get those extra aim tokens and them to be efficient for the first few rounds of the game. I wanted them to put in their work quickly. And, you know, I just had fun with them. It was fun flying Barks around. And I had one opponent who wanted to ignore them, and, you know, that wasn't the way to go, because then they were just flying around behind his line shooting at everything. And it was fun to play them. You know, like Chris, like you said, your son, the rule of cool, man. It was so much fun to just have these bark speeders flying around. And there was one game where I needed to zip one all the way across the board, and I triple moved with it in a turn and didn't even shoot. And man, it was so fun to see that bark speeder kick it into high gear and shoot all the way across the board, just past tons of guys in the middle of this huge battle to get to an objective. It was fun.
Yeah, and you know what? Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the only thing that's tricky, and I guess this is probably a war game issue. I'm new to war games. I'm only 2 years into Legion. That's the only time I've ever played these tabletop war games. But I hear a lot of, if you're going to use dues, get 3. If you're going to do tauntauns, you got to run 3. Barks, don't do less than 3. This is what. That train of thought is what makes me nervous for new players, because at a $45 box, you got to buy 3 of them, or 2 plus the one that came in the core kit. It seems like a hefty investment for something that you may not even know if you're gonna like or not, and it's gonna sit on the shelf. I've got a lot of sit on the shelf models.
Yeah.
Because I like to paint them, and this is the thing where I don't know if this is common. I don't know enough about the community to know that, but like, you know, for someone who's, you know, got a fixed income, or someone who can't buy everything just because it's cool, you know, are they going to buy one because they need to buy 2 to make it work, or is that going to put them off the whole idea of buying the bark? And again, that might be for a different topic, a different conversation, but these are the things I think about with when people say, like, you got to play 3, or there's kind of set rules around the best way to be competitive within the league. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess I should that, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm not saying that you have to run 3 barks for them to be efficient. I'm just saying if you want to get a good feel for what a unit does, and you just take 1, I feel like more often than not you're probably going to be disappointed with it, because your opponent's going to pick on that 1 unit. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage a new player. I mean, I think most of us that are on this cast here right now are probably fall into this category, but I have everything, and I have the max number of everything. Very few, I guess there's a couple units that I don't have everything for, but in my local community, if you go and show up to a game store and, you know, you play a couple games and you're like, hey, I'm new, I really want to try out Wookiees, but man, I don't want to spend $30 a box on a unit that I don't see anybody play. Like, ask around and see if someone will let you borrow them for a game or whatever it is, and get them to the table so you can get a feel for them. Like, most of the time I have my whole collection in the back of my car, because I have a really good storage boxes for them. I have 2 essentially tackle boxes that fit everything in them right now, and still have room to fit much more. So I take everything with me just in case someone comes and they're like, hey, I'm really interested, or I've played a little bit with my friend, but I don't have any models, like, and I'd love to learn more. Like, let me run out to my car and get my stuff, and we'll set up a game and we'll play. Or, hey, you know how to play, but you only have a 500-point list because you only bought a core box and you don't have an 800-point list. Let me go get my models and we'll fill out a list for you, so that way you can play with us today. Or, you know, ask around your community, because there's a lot of guys. Honestly, I played quite a few tabletop games, and Legion is one of the best communities that I've been able to be a part of. Most people that I run into really just enjoy playing the game, enjoy the community, enjoy going pew pew with their guns when they shoot them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and most people are really nice and welcoming.
And to be honest,
We said that
to piggyback on that, I think that now more than ever, especially in this post-COVID world, it's extra important to go out and support your local game stores, because a lot of them are hurting right now.
Yeah.
Try to keep them open and keep these communities going, because I agree with you, Paul. Like, I've run into many situations where I was willing to demo a game for someone or lend models or borrow models to try stuff out from like the community around me. And that is, I think, really, that's like a whole other rabbit hole we can go down discussion wise. But
Absolutely.
man, fostering a community, like building one up in your local area in a game store, I think is like the best way to experience this game, because you can use it as a means to meet new people and form new friendships and try new things out. And so, I mean, there's nothing wrong with like playing at home. I think that's like awesome. But like, I personally just enjoy going out to the store like once a week and trying to get a game in with someone. And that's, I think, a good way to meet someone who might be looking at your table and saying, "Oh, what's that? Oh, I was here for Magic, but I love Star Wars and that looks super cool." Or like, "What is this?" And you start talking to those people, and like a month later, they're posting in the Facebook group looking for a game. I just bought my core set, you know? Like, yeah.
I won't say more than this, because we've talked about this a little bit before. But my only real focus after COVID is about just that. It's about getting out there, strengthening the community, and how we can get new players. And I've got a very solid base of an idea of what I'm going to do and put into practice about just that. We're trying to foster getting more people to play, and what can we do as a pre-existing community through the help of everybody who's out there now, through the help of guys who are very vocal, very loud in the community. What can we do moving forward to get us back in the stores, back playing, because that's key. It's key for our group, it's key for our stores, it's key for the game. And that's my ultimate focus once we're kind of in a place we can call it safe from COVID.
Definitely. All right. Anyone have anything else they want to throw in about supports, barks, anything else you want to add?
Oh, you could probably I mean, if I get in my soapbox, we could be here for a couple of days, me talking about supports, man. I love them.
I know.
I have since it came out. I was running RTs at the beginning, and, always take an opportunity to run some supports. I love all of them. And I could probably talk to each of them, but I guess my final comments on supports is don't rule them out when you're building a list, because they can be very effective in definitely certain areas. And especially with the new objectives that are out. I know Joe and I played a TTS game not too long ago. The carts.
Yeah,
man. The payload. The Rebel ATRTs were perfect at moving my payload cart. Here I have a little mobile piece of armor that's escorting my payload cart, across the map. And those kinds of things can be really effective to get that card out, because you're not scared of it. You're not scared of your RT sitting out there if your opponent doesn't have an answer for armor. So there's a lot more options now.
I mean, what's super fantastic, escorting with RTs, with flamers, you got to be at range 1 to contest the cart, but as soon as you're at range 1, you're also in flame range. So it's really tough to contest when you have 2 flamer RTs escorting a cart across the table. So,
absolutely.
Well, that's good.
And you know what, Paul, you had that success with this bark list in a pre-vital assets meta, and I think barks just got more interesting because bombing run is a thing now, so that's an even better reason to take these.
And
there's a lot of that.
Like we're talking about the payload, they're really good. That same game, I had success with a T-47. Surprise, surprise, because it was able to maneuver over to your half of the battlefield and contest your cart on its own. Which again, the Barks can do that. The speeder bikes for Imperials can do that really easily. There's a lot more going on with these new objectives, and I'm going to say spoiler alert for FFG. Will not be the last objective set that we get in this game.
Right.
We will get more. And
maybe we need
so,
a 1,500-point game now.
there's going to be a lot of options moving forward. So don't rule supports out when you're building a list. Take advantage of some of them. And I've had success with them, and I know people say snipers are still really good, and I'm not denying that they're not good. But I've had just as much success running triple supports than triple snipers. So
yeah.
Don't rule them out when you're building your list. Even the FD cannons and, and things that you don't see very much, they can be really good. You just take some time, you just practice with them, you get used to what their role is in your list, and they can do a lot for you.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're going to jump over. We got about 30 minutes left here. We're going to, Zenga and Joe are going to lead us on a discussion. But I think most importantly, we did answer a very vital question in here, and it's who let the dogs out, and it is apparently Paul Watson. So just I'm glad we got that. No questions go unanswered. So, all right, let's jump over. We'll get some faces on the screen here. And Joe and Chris got a topic, and we're going to talk about it. And Paul, you and I can chime in where and when we see fit. Of course, this is open to everybody, but take it away, guys. We got about probably 30 minutes left on the clock. So.
Okay. Well, I think we just kind of wanted to have like another mental health discussion and how wargaming can help you with that or different things. So I'll just give you some background on myself. So I am actively choosing in my life to not ever join any sort of like all day long tabletop simulator tournaments. And the reason being is because of this, just to let you in on like some personal stuff. So I basically, for World of Warcraft, the video game, came out when I was 16 years old. I bought it like the day it came out. I got addicted to it super hard in high school, got addicted to it super hard in college. When I was in college, I basically had semesters where I was playing it like super diehard and my grades would slip. And then semesters where I would quit it and my grades would go back up to like a 4.0. And so like there was that ebb and flow of being addicted to that game. And I spent the majority of like my early 20s up until only maybe like 1 year before Legion came out, playing that game like so much. Okay. To the point where I would say like there was a point in my early 20s where I would like get up, go to work 8 hours, come home, play that game until like 5 a.m, get no sleep, go back to work, and do that every single day. And like, so video game addiction is something that I like struggled with a lot in my 20s and have had to take like active steps to like cleanse myself of that and break free of that. And so I like don't really play video games anymore. The idea, like I like playing a tabletop simulator game here and there with like Paul or Sean or whoever from time to time. But the idea of like sitting down at my computer for 12 hours like reminds me of those days. And that was like a true issue for me that led to issues in my life that I don't want to like participate in anymore. So that's one of the things where I'm like, I see these like this like Gen Con tournament and this like Prelude Worlds replacement thing, or even like Invader League. And I'm like, it'd be cool to participate in that, but like, I can't. I like will not allow myself to do that because like, I don't want to be reminded of that era of my life that I actually really struggled with, like having to break free of. And I've been in like, being part of that, like playing World of Warcraft like that, I've been in some really top toxic discords. I've hung out with people that were like super racist, super sexist, just the awful, worst, trolliest people on the internet. And you like surround yourself with those people because that game facilitates like a situation where you have to work with others in order to achieve a common goal. Like you have to rely on like 19 other real people to do something that you want to do. So you find yourself in these circles that are like really unhealthy, but the players are good at the game, so you stick around. And it's just kind of like a whole like just Discord and like just all of that is just something I like don't really want to participate in. And that's just, and like Star Wars Legion and wargaming has been a huge factor in like getting over that, because it's like social. It requires you to go out, hang out with real people in person, have a real personality instead of hiding behind like an online handle. You can't really be a troll to someone's face, but it's really easy to be a troll like on Discord where nobody knows your actual name.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of that kind of stuff that I'm just purposely trying to avoid. That's why I love this hobby. That's why I think this hobby is like so healthy for me and such an awesome thing. And that's just like my little thing. So I just kind of wanted to talk to all of you guys and see if you've ever been in a similar situation, or if you've used Legion in a way to help you with like some issues or some mental health stuff, or just to a general source of positivity, just bring people up. You know, that's all I kind of really wanted to touch on here at the end.
I think it's no secret my active discussion about mental health in this community. And it's no surprise to anybody when I say that this community, this game, has helped me get through some of the worst spots in my life, some of the darkest spots. And really, it's not the game per se. It's the people I've met and the friends I've made because of the game, right?
Yeah.
And I can only imagine for this new COVID world we're in, where we're not able to go and see those people and be around those people. For you who doesn't want to turn to electronic versions of the game because of the problems that happened in the past electronic versions, you're optionless. There's no one to play with, and this is the option to play. And that for me, hearing that speaks on the quality of the people that are out there in the real world that you're playing this game with. And
Yeah.
and I think not to rehash all the things I've already said before. I think the thing you can always just focus on is remember the community we've created and how great those people are. And that's the reason why we want to go out. That's the reason why we want to play. Even for someone like me who suffers huge social anxiety, and you guys especially know because we're in the thread. But when I went before a tournament, before an event, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, I'm still texting you guys about whether or not I should take frag grenades or impact grenades. Like it's ridiculous how obsessed I get over what I'm bringing, because I think too much about performing at the tournament. And it's not about performing at the tournament. It's getting out of your house, getting into your car, getting there, and seeing everybody and giving high fives and that connection you have with everyone. And then when you're there, you realize it doesn't matter if you win or lose. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because all these other guys and girls are also here, and that's what's important about the game, and that's what's important about the community is those people.
Yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I can add a little bit to that, I definitely agree with you, and I think something that we can all keep in mind when we're out in our communities is you never know what other people are going through. Like if I met with Chris at the game store to play a game of Legion and I didn't know him before, I would probably have no idea that he struggled from severe social anxiety. And I will give you an example that it's been a while now, but since I've moved to the area that I'm in now, our local game store has lost 2 gamers due to issues that they've had, that from the surface, from an outsider, I would have never known. One of the individuals that comes to mind when I heard of like what he did for a job, I was like, man, that sounds cool. Like I would love to be doing that. And he was always very like happy and energetic, and interacted with everybody, would not hesitate to do a demo game for someone. And and then one day I walk into the game store and there's a sign up that our game store did it for probably about a year, where you could round up your purchase for his family. Essentially, all that money would go to his family. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, what happened? Like, I had no clue. Like, I would have never guessed just by seeing him and how he interacted at the store. But just also to know that everyone that was there supported him as much as they could. I mean, obviously he didn't open up to everybody, but there were a few close friends that he had. And then the fact to me that my game store stepped up, and all the customers that came, whether they knew him or not, supported his family afterwards, is huge to me. And that just speaks to the kind of community and relationships that we build when we play these games. People might make fun that we're playing with little plastic toy soldiers and spending all of our extra income on little figurines. And when I tell people at my work that I paint little models, they kind of look at me like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it's important to me, and it's important to so many people. And like you talked about, Chris, I applaud you for being willing to speak about your experience, because there are a lot of people, and our society does not do a good job of saying it's okay. Saying it's okay to talk about those things and to bring up when you're struggling. I work in a field, I work for children's services, so I deal with a lot of families, a lot of parents, a lot of kids who struggle with mental health issues. And it's hard to get anybody to talk about them. But I think it's a real conversation that we have to open that door and make it okay for people to talk about and not be judgmental. And enjoy each other's company, because sometimes that game that you get once a week of Legion is the only time that individual is not thinking of doing something drastic.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing I think that I want to make sure people know is that this isn't always the case, but it's a lot of the times the case. Is the person who is about to kill themselves is not the person who walks around and posts on social media that they're going to kill themselves.
Right.
It's not always the person that broadcasts it. The people that tend to be more vocal don't really want to, and they are looking for someone to stop them because they really don't want to make that final decision. It's the people that are super friendly, have families, hold down jobs, go out to the games, join social media, are part of groups like this. It's the people who you think are just one of the guys, one of the girls. They are the ones who, when it happens, you don't ever expect it, because you never saw any sign. And I wrote a letter to Alex, and I said to him, quite honestly, and I've said this before, his game with little plastic action figures saved my life. Not figuratively, not being glib, but actually gave me something that helped pull me out and include my kids in. And all of a sudden, you don't think about the things you have, and people say, well, look at what you have. These are reasons why you should go on. It's very hard sometimes when you have all these things in front of you to you appreciate the things in front of you. And sometimes something else will make you realize, oh, there's a lot here, a lot that's worth moving on for. And because of that moment where I was so driven by making terrain because of the terrain studio and playing with Star Wars figures because of FFG, and then joining the group and meeting you guys. Meeting I get again, it's a whole community. Meeting the guys at the Fifth Trooper who I've known for a long time. These people have given me a platform to talk, and they've introduced me to people who have needed to hear this kind of discussion, who didn't know they needed to hear this kind of discussion. And it was something I had to tell him, Alex, first, and then everybody, that it wasn't figuratively. This actually kept me alive, which
Mm-hmm.
is huge for for me, because every time I look at someone who's playing the game with a big smile on their face, when the guy grabbed the bark speeder and was like, "Oh, it's just like the movie." That moment of pure elation means to me, maybe we can keep him or her in that mind state. Maybe from here on in, they will always have that joy and happiness and remember what it's like to play with action figures and watch these movies. And maybe that person, that was their last day, and now it's not.
Hmm.
And that's how I look at every interaction. If I can get someone to walk away smiling, you have no idea what that will cascade into for the next days, weeks, months, maybe the rest of their life. And so I take it very seriously when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about the impact of what people like you guys and everybody in this community are doing. So if I can just say to everybody who's watching, everyone who's listening, um, don't take for granted something as simple as playing with plastic toys. And that's
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
Right. Let me just add in a few things because I think I understand and acknowledge everything that you guys have said. So, one of the big motivators for me, I know Chris and I know other people who have suffer or are suffering with mental health challenges. I work in the school system and we encounter it daily. Paul's pointing out he works with families. We encounter it daily. One of the things I like to do in my life and kind of philosophy is always being solution focused, right? So um, whether we're doing these shows for one person or 40 people, every week I'm always astounded and appreciative of the people who come and hang out. We've had 20 people plus all night listening to us talk about all things. So I'm very cognizant of the fact that people make the choice to do the things that they do, and we make the active choice to be live every week. We make the active choice to invite the people that we have here, and we're really appreciative of both you coming on and sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what we do for the community. Like for people like Joe who are trying to avoid the TTS world but want to stay connected with Legion. Joe and I connect about Legion multiple times, and we don't just sit down on Tuesday nights to have a chat. I like to connect with people about terrain. Chris is asking me questions through the week. I'm chatting with Matt right now about airbrushing, but every week I do that because I wanted to appeal and bring it to the terrain world. Friday night fights, we were very cognizant and very upset that we weren't be able to run that. We had to apply and appeal to social distancing, but we're back now doing that, and we do it for the people that are out there as much as we do it for the two people playing the game. That's really why we're doing all this, and I'm not looking for accolades or praise as to what we're doing. What I'm saying is that we're trying to provide a solution for people who are suffering from challenges, and whether it's going to the gaming store, running a tournament, Chris sharing his story, doing play and learns, Paul teaching new players or lending models to people, Joe and I casting or doing Friday night fights or running a demo, having people over. All those things are positive contributions that we're making to the gaming world, and that's the only thing that I want recognition for. And there's lots of people doing it, of course. You've mentioned a few, and there's a ton of people out there, and there's so many people out there who are doing things that don't necessarily have the means to convey their story. They don't have a podcast or they don't have these, but we know those people in our community everywhere. Chris, you know the advocates that are outside of you. Joe, you know the advocates that are outside of you. Paul, you know the people that do the things. I know the people in my local area here. The guys coming to play a game on Friday, those are advocates. Those guys are doing something. They're doing a service for people. They're enjoying themselves, but they're also doing something. Matt doing the hobby cast with me on Thursday. He didn't have to do that. He's taking his time out to now contribute a painting contribution because we know that people like that. So anything that we can do to set a positive existence for people, something to look forward to, something to gravitate towards, something to use as a distraction, which I think, Chris, is what you're kind of alluding to, that it didn't literally save your life. However, it provided you that platform, that avenue, that adventure to explore, to distract you, to keep you from the negativity. So that is the only thing we're trying to do here. And I, like I said, I appreciate everyone coming every week. Sometimes we talk about fun things and sometimes we talk about serious things, but it's seriously fun to talk about Legion. And that's why we're here every week. So,
and I want to just make sure, like, when you talk about helping people, at the end of the day, what you don't see, and I'll do this really quickly here. So what you don't see is that's my gamer. And that's what happens when you help somebody in the community. You're not just helping them, you're helping the family, you're helping the people they're going home to. And that little face is someone I play wargaming with 3 times a week. So when you help someone, that's how far it extends. Just in case you need a real picture painted for you, is that little adorable face who loves to play war games. This is the extension of that one guy in the store who you had no idea was fighting something. Not to put too fine a point on it.
Yeah, and that's true. We actually don't know who the 20 people hanging out are. Well, we know some of them because they're in chat, but we have no idea from the comments or from the number that's at the top of the screen what's actually happening in their world. We do know that we're providing something potentially for them as a positive interaction piece, and we hope that that's all we're doing for them, and we hope that they can go off and share that with other people, or take something away that they can contribute to their communities, whatever that is: painting, terrain making, how to run bark speeders better, or how to just be a better advocate for their local communities. So I mean, that's all we're doing.
I know. I saw here, I don't know if you threw it up or not, Sean, I might have missed it, but Ben says that he loves every time you're able to bring up this discussion, Chris, and I just wanted to echo that as well. I think it's something that's definitely needed, and definitely not to take away from that either, but I think just our conversation in general, like you were saying, Sean, is everybody. Like, this helps everybody. I might not have any mental health diagnoses of my own, but going to play a game of Legion before COVID, it was a weekly occurrence. We had a weekly night where I would go after work and play my game and come home. That day helps me come back, like you said, Chris, to my wife, my kids, and be a better individual for them, because that one game of Legion helps me get rid of all the problems that I'm carrying on my shoulders throughout the days, throughout the weeks, throughout the months, whatever it is. And it's so important for all of us to have that outlet, whether it's the hobby aspect. Some people just love to paint these gorgeous models that FFG is coming out with and do fantastic things with them. Some people love doing terrain, like Sean. I mean, the stuff that I see coming out of the terrain studio is amazing. I wish that I had half the talent to do those things like Sean does, or like Matt does with his painting. It's phenomenal, and I try to do my best and be creative with things, and I love getting to the table and showing off my cool idea that I had for a paint scheme or whatever it might be, and those moments get me through all those times at work when I'm struggling, when I'm seeing something that has happened to a child that just should never happen to a kid. That game helps me get through those and get through those secondary trauma pieces that a lot of us in our fields, like I think Sean probably has these as well in his field, where we see things that happen to other people that can affect us and does affect us. And these games help us get through that and come back to the people that we love and care about and be effective fathers, effective, significant others to them. And it's so important. And I appreciate you guys taking the time and letting Chris share his story. I know it's not the first time. It probably won't be the last time he shares it. I sure as heck hope it's not the last time he shares it, because I think there are plenty of people out there who need to hear that they are not the only ones who struggle with anything. And so I just want to say thank you guys for opening up your podcast, to have us on and to have Chris talk about his story and allowing us to have this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on and talking to us about all this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Joe or Chris or Paul, if we got no other final comments, Joe, you want to take us out, wrap us up, tell us what to look forward to the rest of the week and next, maybe? Or
yeah, I guess the two big things coming up this week are we've got your hobby stream on Thursday night. We've got Friday night fights on Friday night. Really looking forward to another Friday night fights this week. Sean's been doing a lot of work in the studio, changing things around, and I think it's going to look the best it's looked yet. So it should definitely be something cool to check out for you guys.
It better be if I'm paying for it.
I mean, I got this camera that brings you like all the plugins and the cords and people's feet, so you will see everything. It'll be fantastic.
We're working on smell-o-vision, so you can even smell the sweat.
Gamer funk, yeah. We're working on a Legion Academy fragrance called Gamer Funk. So it's bottle it up and sell it.
Smell bad on the outside.
It's literally Age of Sigmar in a bottle. I had to say it.
Well, at least we can use Warhammer in the tag now. So awesome. And Ben. Oh yeah. Also shout out here. Ben's got ATST Act 2 is going to be done soon, and we're going to have that ported over to the Legion Academy YouTube channel. So if you guys are listening to this now or missed some of it and you want to catch it, we'll have the YouTube video loaded up, and then probably in a day or so, Joe will get the audio version of this podcast up on all the appropriate podcast channels. So we'll have that out shortly.
Sounds good. Well, on that note, everyone, enjoy your new Cad Bane and Padme. If you picked them up, enjoy the hobby in this week, and we'll see you later in the week for some more streams. And thanks again, Paul and Chris. Appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care, everyone. Have a great week.
All right. Thanks, guys. Cheers.